April was a good reading month, I think. Pretty heavy stack. Hello, my name is Ksenia. My full name means Hospitable Island. I create videos to inspire people to live more curious, creative, and connected lives through books, art, and nature. This month, I will be talking about all the books I read in April. It's a wrap-up of sorts. I will include some short quotes and passages that I loved. But of course, if you really want to delve into them, you'll have to check out there's some more thorough summaries online. The first book is a book of poetry by Noor Unahar. Yesterday I Was the Moon. She's from Pakistan, and her poems reflect her thoughts on and struggles as an immigrant, her thoughts on creativity, and they're very short but very, very sweet. I'll read a couple just so you can get a sampling of them. Art doesn't ask to be perfect, poetic, precise. It asks to exist, to breathe, to be. This is what it has always been about. Like the anger of fire shapes metal, like the sorrow of a writer creates poetry. Everything that is beautiful doesn't always start beautifully. She always has these nice little twists at the end. When you fall, do it gloriously, collapse like a glass building, sink like a gigantic ship, and when you're done sinking and collapsing, build yourself with your wreckage. She also has these lovely little drawings that she did, which I love as a visual artist. Yeah, overall, it's just a lovely book. I don't know how many other books she has out, but I will look into it at some point. The next book is also of poetry, but it's more of an anthology. I've mentioned this author before, Roger Houston, in my spring video, so check that out if you're interested. He collects beautiful poetry from all over the world on different topics. Before I read 10 Poems to Set You Free. In this collection, it's 10 Poems to Change Your Life. He includes his reflections after each poem, and I really love them. They really add a depth to the poems. Some of these poems I have heard of before, I have read before, but now after reading his analysis of them, I want to just keep rereading and rereading them. Let me read you the one he starts with. I've read this poet before. She's one of my favorites, actually, Mary Oliver. And the poem is called The Journey. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. Though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice said. Each voice cried, sorry. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, you left their voices behind. The stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you can do, determined to save the only life you could save. Beautiful selection. I would recommend all of his books. The next book is also by him, Roger Houston, Chasing Rumi, a fable about finding the heart's true desire. I absolutely love this book, but I'm a huge fan of Rumi, which probably influenced a lot of how I viewed this book. It was very spiritual. It was very much about finding wisdom, looking for your place in the world, looking for presence, learning through silence, learning how to find joy in life. Embody joy. I would give this book like a 3 stars, 3.5. It could have given a little bit more, I think, but I really love and I really resonate with the author, so I really enjoyed it. That's what matters, right? The next 2 books, I've also mentioned this author before in my spring video. It's Karl Ove Knausgaard. He's a Norwegian author. It's in translated books. These 2 books are part of a series he wrote for his 4th child, his unborn daughter. It starts with autumn, then it goes to winter, spring, and summer, but I read autumn first and I decided I don't want any more winter. This winter has been long enough, so I skipped over to spring. And it's not super chronological, I think. Yeah, I think you can enjoy them separately, so I enjoyed both books a lot. I enjoyed spring a lot more than autumn, because autumn was like these short, like, they kind of felt like writing exercises when you're given a word and you just write about it. There's one on like bottles, there's one on twilight, frogs, and they're very thoughtful. They start with a letter to his unborn daughter. Each of them starts with a letter, but the first one, autumn, I didn't particularly resonate with some of the subjects he chose. I understand why some people found it a little bit boring. This book, though, I really, really loved. I've developed such a sympathy for him and for his approach to writing, which is very raw, very blunt in a way, and his attention to detail is kind of obsessive at times, where I'm just like, please, can we move on to something else? But very rarely. Overall, he is my newfound favorite author, along with, the classic authors that I love, and May Sarton and Mary Oliver. The next book is a memoir called Slow Love by Dominique Browning. I read it in 2 days, so it was a very quick read. It was about finding herself, her identity. It's called, the subtitle is How I Lost My Job, Put on My Pajamas, and Found Happiness. It talks about her midlife crisis, of her search for identity, and of who are you if you're not your job, of who are you when your kids moved out and your relationship didn't work out. She ends up relocating to Rhode Island. She has resources, which is nice, but she ends up moving to Rhode Island and starting a garden and starting writing for herself. There's some very beautiful moments in it. She plays also the piano, and her mother also was a music teacher, or she played the piano, yeah. This quote is from her going to a concert with her mom, and her mom turning to her and saying, all my life I wanted to be with someone who would feel music the way I did. And she's reflecting on it now. Dominique, her daughter. She did not get this in a husband. Perhaps she has it in a daughter. I am finding in these night hours that I am highly receptive, porous, stripped of any of the qualities that protect me from what would surely be the madness of living fully, constantly moved by real beauty, real pain. Lines of poetry that I have loved over the years float into my consciousness. Go, 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 said the bird. Humankind cannot bear very much reality. Words and notes, there seems to be no difference in my hearing them played or reading them off the page. I am so fluent at this hour, have the capacity to penetrate so deeply that my entire being, brain, heart, and body are converging in a powerful harmony. What I have found in these hours of sleeplessness is something I may have once encountered as a teenager and then lost in the frantic skim through adulthood. The desire to nourish my soul. I did not have the temerity to think I have found God. I think instead that I have stumbled into a conversation that I pray will last the rest of my life. I suppose that is up to me. I thought the passage was just beautiful. I would give like 3 stars. I enjoyed it, but I'm not going to probably remember it beyond that passage for more than a year or two. And the last 2 books are pretty much entirely on gardening. The first one is by Jamaica Kincaid, my garden book. She is African American and she reflects on her identity in parts of this book, but mostly it's written with a lot of humor about gardening, about getting started doing something we don't know how to do and passionately failing again and again and again before we figure it out. It took a little bit of time to get used to her style, but once I get used to it, there are quite a few annotations. I really, really loved it. And the last one is, and I shall have some peace here, trading in the fast lane for my own dirt road. Margaret Roach. I don't know how many people have heard of her, but she was the main director or helper to Martha Stewart. Yeah, she was the editorial director. And she indulged in a long stifled dream and a completely different reward. So she moved full-time to upstate New York, where I am, and connected with nature and her first original passion, her garden. This book is also written with so much humor that it's enjoyable. I mean, sometimes you might not get it, especially me, who does not, especially I didn't, because a lot of cultural references are lost on me because I spend so much time in books and painting and in nature that I don't watch all that much media. But her descriptions of frogs mating, her relationship with all the critters that inhabit her plot of land, her changing relationship with herself as she keeps asking herself the question, who am I if I'm not MargaretRoach.com, organizer of Martha Stewart's company, rich company? Who am I if I'm unemployed and confused and don't have anybody in my life? It's also kind of a reflection on solitude and being alone and creating cozy routines for yourself, creating a sense of identity independent of anyone else. I really love this book, but once again, I will not be rereading it probably. I'll probably gift it to somebody if I could find a fellow gardener. Yeah, I would probably also give it 3 stars. This one I would actually probably give 4 stars. It's a very original stream of consciousness kind of writing to it that I absolutely loved. So yeah, all of my reads for this month were pretty rewarding. I discovered some new authors, and I continued reading an author that I have already enjoyed, Roger Houston. This month was quite productive. I will not be able to have the time in the next month, but I will be posting my video of my TBR for next month, and if you've read any of these books, let me know. If you have any recommendations based on these books, let me know. And if you enjoy my videos, if you enjoy me reading the poetry, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I look forward to meeting fellow booktubers, fellow readers, fellow people who enjoy poetry and hearing all kinds of book talk, life talk. I think the two are completely intertwined and they cannot be separated. Until next time, bye.